Dayle, would you begin by just sharing with us about your family of origin and a little bit about your journey up to this point?
Okay, well, there's not a whole lot that I know about my family history. I know a little bit from what my folks said, but not a whole lot other than that. My dad's family was primarily German. I think on both sides, but I don't know for certain. My mom's family was German. No, my dad's family was German and some English. My mom's family was German. That's what I knew of. Whatever. They were quite prominent in the church. My grandfather was an elder. I don't remember him well. I think I remember seeing him once or twice. He passed away when I was about 6. My dad's family, they were around for a bit longer, thank goodness. But my dad's family was, I guess, I never associated them with the church. They might have been somewhat, but not much that I knew about. So, whatever. As far as the background goes, that's just about it. Okay, I don't have a whole lot to say. I got a couple more. One of my uncles on my mom's family started up the 39th Street congregation down in Independence, and he was also prominent in the I think it was KMBR radio, and he did some other stuff. He was in some behind the scenes broadcasting stuff. That's what he was doing. So. Whatever.
Where did you grow up?
Independence. Yes, one word.
What was your mother's name?
Resch. If you know any of the Resches down in Independence, I'm probably related. There's a bunch of them. Both
R-E-S-C-H?
R-E-S-C-H. The Science Center was named after one of my cousins. Okay, the whole 9 yards. I lost the other one, but that's okay.
Okay, now tell us about kind of how you grew up, not how you grew up, I know how you grew up.
One day at a time.
What you've done as you've driven to Lamoni, Iowa.
Oh boy. I was just growing up. My mom had polio, and she was I don't remember her walking at all. I do remember my grandmother coming over and taking care of her, out in the front room a little bit. That was about it. I remember a time or two when ambulances were involved, they had to take her off to the hospital. They brought her back. It was missed. Like I said, I don't remember her walking at all.
How old were you when this was happening?
6 years old. Yeah, that was a traumatic year. But that was that part of it. As far as growing up, South Chrysler congregation, that's where I was. Some more of my mom's family was up at the Stone Church. If you were ever going to the visiting around the Laurel Club during conferences, my aunt Velma, she was the president of that operation, and for quite a number of years. There was also a couple of them that were in the choir that sang at conference and stuff like that. But as far as growing up, like I said, South Chrysler, we went to various of the events there and stuff like that. I remember when I was younger. That was a while back. There was a Sunday school class or something, and they had us making little, I don't know what you call them, kind of pictures out of little stones or whatever else. And mine was on the rod of iron from the Book of Mormon, and whatever that was. I do remember that one. whatever. So that was interesting. There was several things that had gone on. I remember when I was a senior in high school. I remember it was a senior in high school, but I have no idea why I remember that. Doesn't matter. But I'd gotten pretty heavy into the book of Revelation and whatever else, and I was really concerned about the end of the world. Okay. One morning, I got woke up. It was interesting. There was my dad was one of the founding members of the Scout Troop down at South Chrysler, and whatever. And we met in there was one of the older rooms downstairs. They had a bunch of, I remember it was leather, cracked leather. They were old. Seats down in this little auditorium deal where I guess they used to have services down there. Anyway, that's kind of halfway important. Okay, what happened was on this, what went on, and we were sitting there, and it was kind of like I'm going to say a press conference or something like that. They had somebody who's going to come in and they're going to talk to us. I said, okay, well, I'm just sitting there in the audience. And this guy walks in. Oh, he looks kind of familiar. He walked around in front, and it was pretty obvious this was Jesus Christ. They're going, okay. And he goes, like, first question, when's the end of the world going to be? Week from Saturday. And I was out just like that. Whoa, I tell you, you do not want to know when the end of the world's coming. It will destroy your life. Believe me. And a week from Saturday, we were going to be on vacation, and we were on the road to Montana at the time, and you don't think I was sweating during that trip. That was something else. But anyway, that's a couple of things that I remember down there. There was various little odds and ends moments, but that was pretty much
it. When that
it.
did not happen, how did that affect you?
Had that not happened?
Now, when it did not happen, when the earth kept going, I mean, we kept going, and how did that affect
I could breathe again.
Did you still believe that the end was coming any minute?
Until after it got there, yes. It was, yeah. When you hear the Word of God, sort of whatever, was it really? I don't know, but as far as the dream went, it was pretty obvious, So that was one of the.
Did you tell anyone else
That's what I
about
wanted
it?
to know.
I'm not certain I did. I didn't want to scare anybody else to death. So probably not. I don't remember telling anybody. So whatever.
Yeah, that was my question too. Who else knew?
No, I don't know that anybody else knew about that one. You guys might be the first to hear this. But,
Your wife says she's heard it.
oh, you've heard that one? Okay, I've told that before. Okay, anyway, so, there was not much else that was going on there. Then when I graduated from high school, I tell people this one too, is, with people up here, how many people graduate up here at Lamoni? What is it, 24 this year? Okay. Our graduating class was held in the auditorium, and there was only about 2,000 of us. 1,200, sorry, about 1,200. That was a big class. Anyway, I was also one of the first classes that actually went all 3 years. They start in the 10th year instead of the 9th year in high school. And the other was in middle school. All 3 years at Truman High School. That was the first graduating class that went all 3 years there. Everybody else went to Chrisman at least 1 year prior to that, So whatever, that was kind of an interesting little sidelight, whatever. But then I got up here. What had happened was I just, where am I going to go to school? I don't know. I'll put an application in at Graceland. And it came back, and okay, all right. They decided to take me. Anyway, so that got me up here and whatever else. I came up here as, when I was a freshman, I was going to be a physics major. I don't know how many of you know that or not. It was just a little bit on the techie side. But I got up here, went to first 2 years up here, and then I transferred down to UMKC. And I was in the physics departments down there, and the guys were all, these guys were like a year, 2 years, some of them a year or 2 years ahead of me. So they were getting ready to graduate, and they were taking jobs at the railroad and whatever else. I'm going, what am I doing here? This doesn't make a whole, and I was not exactly comfortable down there. It was a whole different experience after Graceland. And it was like, I don't know what you'd say, more clinical. You know, it just didn't feel right. I was, you know, kind of out in left field, seems like. And when these guys all taking these graduates were taking jobs at the railroad and stuff like that, I said, I'm not in physics to try to you know, work for the railroad or something else. I can do that anytime, you know. So I decided to change majors, and I came back up to Grayson for my that was my junior year. My senior year, I was up here. I switched majors, and I made it out in 1 year. I had a little rough year scheduling wise with respect to classes, but I got through whatever else. There was a couple of things things kind of happened to me. You know, my deal with respect to the revelation of when the end of the world was. It was interesting that I was kind of losing that thought. I may have to move on to something else, but anyway, there's several things have occurred in my life that's kind of like that. Some of it was, well, part of it was like when I came back up to Graceland. You know, it felt more like I was a lot more relaxed up here. You know, I never really felt like I was, you know, a astounding member of anything. I do have one thing that I have to tell you though, and it might explain a couple of things. When we were at Graceland, they had a men's choir. Well, they had house choirs is what they were, and they had a competition about who was going to be the best, you know, best singers and whatever else. They needed X number of people in the choir. Well, I got into the choir. Okay, fine, and they asked me to lip sync. I have not forgotten that, and I haven't sung much since because of that, partly. So I don't know. It was when I was in grade school. I remember there were several. My teachers were said I was one of the best sopranos they had ever heard. You know. Okay, all right. Voice changed, and my singing career ended. But whatever. But it was an interesting year. I don't know how far do you want me to go with this?
Tell me, what was your major? What did you change to?
Math. I mean, that was a big change from physics. I've already had all the classes. It didn't really matter that much. But I had a couple more required classes I had to have, and I had them all in the last year. So it was a little stressful, but not bad. I do remember one thing. An English teacher. I can tell you what happened to him, but John Wallace, yes, John Wallace. There was one thing he said in his English. I didn't want to take an English class. I know how to speak, you know, whatever. You know, that didn't seem like it was much of an improvement in my education. But he said one thing during that class that really stuck with me. You know, he says words are important, He says, I'll give you an example. Explain to me how to do whatever. I says, you can't do it without words. It will not happen. You know, if you can't express yourself, you know, it's all over, you know. And I was really, he didn't say it in those words, but basically it was the importance of language, what you know about it, how you express things, stuff like that. That was important. I said, well, maybe I better pay attention to this class then. So that was like I said, that was one of the upper primary moments in my career. Oh, another one, you know, I was telling you about things that are coming to me. It was interesting. There was an advanced analysis class in part of my math background. And it was, they had some problems in there that you're supposed to solve. It's kind of, it was almost like a final test, if I remember right. It was pretty well toward the end of the semester. And it was just in there, and it was, oh, just like this, and it came out, I was right. You know, I solved the problem, whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was at the time, it didn't matter, but it was interesting. There was just, things like that will happen to me once in a while. You know, every now and then something will come up. And it's just like, oh, okay, and I go that direction. Anyway, that was the one I was going to do before, but anyway. There was some other stuff that happened during my senior year that there's other people in the room that know about, I was it was actually probably toward the end of the semester, and there was a real scrawny little guy up in the floor, and he thought he was women's gift to, you know, he was a gift to women's deal, and he was, oh, he could date everybody, you know. He was, enough said about him. Anyway, he had asked this one girl out, and whatever, and I'd been dating around. I had a book, the infamous little black book. Mine wasn't black, I think it was green. And I had written down, I think I had one date with just about everybody that I was interested in. It never seemed to go past one date. I don't know whether I lost interest, or whatever. In any case, but he had asked this one girl out, and I'm going, huh. I didn't know she was single. She worked in the ad building, and I couldn't figure out, you know, well, you see all these people in there. You assume that they're all married or whatever else, you know. And, well, not necessarily old. There were some that weren't, you know, there was a couple of them that caught my attention, let's put it that way. And he said this kid had a date with her, came back to the dorm, and he was, well, like I said, his character. He was expounding about his adventure. Let's put it that way. Anyway, I said, well, if he took her out, I'll give it a try and see what happened. It was Linda. So that was how we got started on that one. And then I asked her on a second date, and then it was a third, and well, you can kind of figure out where it went from there. But that was how we met, and it was an interesting deal on that one. We dated, and Linda talked about it some. We dated off and on because it was my senior year, and after that I went back home to Independence, staying with my folks and looking for a job. And it was about a year before I managed to get a job. Yeah, it was you know, whatever. That is stressful. You know, it's amazingly hard to keep your spirits up when you go out. You're up for an interview and go there, and they tell you no, and go, you know, you drop off like, you know. It got to the point where after several months of that, it was hard to go to another one, because, anyway, enough of that. So I finally got a job or two down there. There was one that we got at an engineering firm, and I was warned when I went in by the employees, the other employees that were there, this guy's a little tough to work with. Whatever. His claim to fame, if you will, in that vein, was that if he had something he was going to complain to you about, he made certain he had an audience. Let's put it that way. Yes, and I think mine was, he was, the engineering firm. They did a lot of surveying and stuff like that, and I was the, I don't know what you'd call it. I would all the plats and stuff that they brought in. I had to put the measurements and stuff on them, and I put it out to 3 decimal places. And he said, "You don't need to do that," and then he raked me over the coals on that one. It wasn't too long after that he decided to let me go. Oh boy, whatever. And I got another job at, I don't know if you remember American Beauty Macaroni. They used to be big around. I'm trying to figure out what became of them. I don't know. But in any case, it was, I got a job with them and was working around. I was actually in the computer department, big surprise. And I taught myself the programming language, RPG. And they had something going up. This guy that was supposed to be over me, kind of a supervisor. He wasn't the boss, but he was over me. And he had tried to write up this program, whatever. It wasn't working real well, and I started playing around with it, got it going pretty decently. This is back in the era where everybody was working off the key punch cards, stuff like that. So, anyway, we got that. They decided to let me go on that one. Well, no, actually, it got stressful enough that I was looking for a way out. Let me put it that way. I got a call from somebody that had been dating. And said, there's an opening up here at Grayson in the computer department. Oh, really? All right. I headed up this way. And I met with Lyle Gibson. He was the guy that was the head of the computer department at that point in time. And he was from Canada. He moved down here. His wife, I think they moved in from Toronto or some big city. I'm not certain which one. But she had culture shock moving to Lamoni. Couldn't handle it, and she left him and went back to Canada. So he was sitting down there by himself, whatever. That was kind of his background. But anyway, so I came up and interviewed with him, and he decided he was going to hire me. Okay, well, that went pretty fast. And I think we got into a conversation. I don't know whether he started or I started, didn't matter. And I said, "Well, why did you pick me?" He says, "Because you came to my house on a Sunday afternoon to be interviewed." He says, "If you got that much gumption, I'm taking you." Okay, all right. Well, that's how I got in, and I worked there for several years and whatever else. David DeBarth might remember that I worked under him there for a while also. He was one of the next, not the next deal, because what happened is Lyle was a hockey player by tradition or whatever, and he was the coach of some of the various teams, and he was coaching the Graceland hockey team. And he went up to Des Moines for a game up there, and he never came home. He had a heart attack. I never even saw him again. So, and I was living in his basement up there.
Oh.
Over here. Paul is right down the street from you. I was telling you about that street where Andrew Ansong was the guy that came in sometime after, because some of Linda's relatives bought the place, and I was still staying there, and they bought it and said, "Well, you can stay there until we move in." So they did. All right. When they finally moved in, I ended up buying this house across the street over here. It was a little bit smaller when I bought it. We added on somewhat, kind of straightened it up a little bit. It was just a little piece out here, piece out here, piece out here. You know, there wasn't much to it. It was divided off into 2 apartments when I bought it, and I ended up taking over both of those. But anyway, that was kind of my head up in this direction. So anyway, where do we go from here?
Okay, let's move a little further with Linda.
With Linda. Okay. All right. Okay. It was an interesting time. You know, I was very comfortable with her and whatever else. And I think, I'm not positive about this, but I think she started making some, because it was getting on about 4 years that we've been dating off and on. She said something about we'd trade weekends. She'd drive down to Independence, then I'd drive back up here, and that was before I got, you know, on up here. And whatever. She was making some hints around that she was getting tired of waiting for me, okay, and whatever. So that got me to thinking a little bit more. I said, whatever, you know. I got, yeah. It was strange, you know. And quite frankly, I mean, I've had some experiences in the past which I've skipped past a little bit. I'll get back to those maybe, but it was. I never really had a intense love, but I experienced that a time or two in my life before. Weird. Don't ask. I may not tell. But I got to thinking about it. Says, but I felt more at home with her than anybody I'd ever been with. It was really strange, you know. You got to thinking about it, you know. I mean, when I was with her, I just felt like I was at home. All right, okay, all right. And then the other half of the equation popped up. I said, well, if I ever decide to break up with her, I says, boy, that was tearing me to pieces. It was just, I couldn't stand the thought of not being with her. And so whatever. Then one Christmas, I got the bright idea. Back in the key punch era, I remember now. And I was working up here in Graceland.
Hey, Dale, give me a calendar date. What year are we talking?
Somewhere around 75. Somewhere in 75.
Punch card date.
You know. Because we got married in 76. You know, so it was, and we had about, I think, we're getting there. In any case, we had I made up this little program, you know, on punch cards, you know, and fill in the blank, whatever else, you know, answer this question, and you take a letter and put it in a certain spot and whatever else. And the question was, will you marry me? But it was interesting because as she was filling it out and going through all these cards and you know, I was really quite surprised, pat myself on the back. It was, I mean, you couldn't tell what was coming as far as the phrase went, you know, as she was filling the stuff in, you know, it was, and yeah, pretty good, this one, you know. And about 3/4 way through it, she still hadn't figured out what the phrase was. And she was starting to quit. And I said, you don't want to do that. You want to keep going. You know.
She thought she was.
Well, she did. Well, she did. And when she got down to the last couple letters, she kind of finally figured out what was coming, you know. And what was interesting was my mom, you know, she was incapacitated with polio. And she had a fold-out bed in the front room that she stayed in during the day and whatever. Well, that's where Linda would sleep at night. And there was a little nightstand or something beside it. And her ring was in that drawer. She had slept with it all night before and she didn't know it. So that was kind of interesting. It was, it was probably a big clue, but I'm backing up a little bit now. We were wandering through one of the malls up at, I think it was Merle Hay Mall, up in Des Moines, and we've been walking all over the place, and we're getting kind of tired. They said, well, you want to sit down? Hey, there's some chairs over here in Hillsburg's. You know, so we went over there and looked at some stuff and whatever, just messing around, and whatever. She found a ring that she liked, you know. I said, oh, okay, all right. It was not the cheapest one in there, but it wasn't atrocious. And I was short on cash anyway, so. But all right, we found that I managed to. I don't know how I got the ring purchased without her knowing about it, but I did, and I had an old squirrel. She knew, yeah. But anyway, especially if there was any doubt, it was all erased when she opened the box, you know. But it was interesting. I think you still got it on, don't you? Yeah, yeah. But that was an interesting little sidebar and whatever. So that's kind of how we got. And then after that, it was just, you know, not too long, and Aaron came along. And then about 14 months later, right, Mike came along, and then we, you know, raising the kids, whatever else, and whatever. 12 years later, there was Lisa. Surprise! Anyway, so that's kind of the family history on that one, you know. And like I said, we added onto the house and whatever else. In fact, the kids were small when I remember them looking out over the back end when we added on over here and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we get married in May 30th. It's coming up in '76. So, you know, and this is '74. Got 2 more years to go, and we're 50. Yeah, 50 years. So whatever. But that was interesting. A couple of other things, and I'm going to digress a little bit back to when I was growing up. Like I said, my dad was instrumental in starting the scout troop down at South Chrysler, and eventually it kind of fizzled out, kind of like what happened here at the Lamoni congregation with their scout troop. And he was there till it closed down. He was their secretary and treasurer from day one to day end. You know, it was kind of interesting. So we had quite a bit of scout background. Yeah, I have not told very many people this, and this is dangerous for me. I did make Eagle Scout. And I have not let very many people know about that because I was afraid I was going to get volunteered after I got up here. I said, I've had enough. I'm going to sidestep that one. But yes, I was an Eagle Scout, the whole 9 yards, scout camp, whatever. One of the overnights we were at Camp Donovan, and I don't know, it was a Scout Jamboree, whatever it was. There were several troops there, and this is a strange deal with respect to, I'll tell it. I walked up by there was a barbed wire fence, you know, at the edge of the property, and I remember there were some weed type flowers growing up around a fence post, and I walked over near that, and I got flooded with a feeling of love, and I'm, holy moly, what the heck, you know. I didn't know it was coming, didn't know it, nothing else happened from it, and I just, whoa, but that one has stuck with me. It was really powerful at that point in time. Another scout event was, we were on overnight someplace, I think it was around Lake Jacomo area. There had been, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that great big earthquake that they had with the Cape Girardeau area or something like that. It messed things up real good all the way up around through Independence and whatever. But we were out there, and there was a quarry out there, okay, an old quarry, and there's this big cliff, and I decided I was going to try to climb this cliff. Now remember, this is a quarry. What do you do in a quarry? You blast out the rock dig it up, take it away, whatever else. I decided I was going to climb the wall. I got about halfway up it. It was not a small wall, and whatever. And I remember very plainly looking down over my shoulder, and I see all these big rocks at the bottom, and they were not exactly smooth rocks either. And I'm going, whatever. And about that time, one of my handholds broke loose, you know, and whoa. I got up it, and I cannot to this day tell you how I got up that wall, you know, but I did, you know, and it was like I said, like things happen, you know, and I keep looking back at some of these things and going, trying to tell me something? Anyway, but that was a couple things that I had missed on my way through, but anyway. Next question.
Okay, so you're working at Radio Shack, listen to me.
Not yet.
Graceland, you're working at Graceland, and then that you decide no longer to be there. So then what do?
Well, wasn't exactly my idea. They decided to let me go. I don't know what the situation was, but in any case, I did. I don't know if you guys might have remembered Ron Gleason. He was an accountant out in the business department, and he I don't know if they released him or let him go or he decided to quit or whatever. In any case, both of us got off about the same time, so we decided to go together and start a business. We're going to get a hold of a little mini computer and do online accounting. Stuff like that. Well, I shouldn't say online because that's got a newer connotation, but you know, helping people with their accounting and whatever else, and whatever gets going on that one. We couldn't get customers. It just, I don't know whether it was the time, our presentation, what, didn't matter, but we weren't getting anything, so we decided to split up, you know, and my dad's, where my dad was working, they decided to close down. It was not exactly an insignificant operation. It started out pretty small, and it grew. It was a steel warehousing company. They would sell steel. They got big, really big. They were the largest steel warehousing operation west of the Mississippi. They had an entire plant in Texas that was doing nothing but making rebar for them. An entire steel plant was manufacturing stuff. They opened up a big office out in Denver. They had another one. I can't remember where it was, but there was a third one also. These guys have gotten big, and I don't know. They decided to close it down, or I don't know. In any case, they let my dad go, you know. Well, actually, no, they didn't. He retired, you know, and around town, around the family, we were always telling Dad, says, you're the one that's holding this place together. Within about a year and a half, it was over. the business was gone. And what happened? They split up. Somebody went out to the Denver plant. Somebody else went over here, and whatever. So they were closing down the office, and we picked up a lot of stuff from them. One of the things we got was a printing press, okay, in the whole advertising department, and we got that. I moved that in down to was going to move it in down to where I was working with Ron, or had been, the same building. Let's see, what's in there now? The law office. Well, there was a law office down there. That's where we were. One person left. Ralph Damon was the State Farm insurance, and he was up front. He had part of the building, and we had the other part, and we bought out his part piece and whatever else. So anyway, and well, like I said, I had this printing press, and I was starting to get a couple of customers here and there. But a press is not exactly a clean or quiet operation. So I decided I was going to have to find another place to put this in. And I got the, what is it? Right now it's Obscure Ink. I ended up buying that place, moving in, and whatever else. It was not in good shape when I moved in. In fact, there was a couple people tried to break down the wall. The building was condemned or something like that, and we had to rebuild that. And, it was interesting. Anyway, I got to start down there doing some stuff like that. And then what happened was we was working along doing various things during election season. I got a fair amount of work, some of which was from Leonard Boswell. We printed out flyers and stuff for him and some stuff like that. And anyway, we were doing some of that stuff. Like I said, we're doing reasonably well, making ends meet, but barely. Then the guy that was, who was the banker? Who?
Lowell Davis.
No. No.
He moved up north.
Shipper?
Shipper?
Anyway,
Shipper?
Jim Shipper. He came in one day with a letter he had in his hand from Radio Shack. He says, "We've noticed there's a lot of computer activity, with respect to sales and stuff. I was helping people buy machines is what I was doing. And I would get them lined up, whatever else. Anyway, the letter was, there's a lot of business going on in the computer area. Do you know, there was a letter, it was to Jim. Do you know somebody that might be interested in running a Radio Shack franchise? He handed me the letter. Oh, I don't really want to be a dealer, And I got to thinking, I says, it doesn't really make a lot of difference, what you're doing, but if you don't do something in addition to what you're doing, you're not going to make it. Well, all right, we'll give it a shot. So we did, and we were impressing some of the people at Radio Shack and some of the Radio Shack dealers around the area. There was one guy in particular from Creston came in, and I don't know if you've ever been in that first store that we had down there. It is not big. I had all the walls up and whatever else. The guy from Creston came in. He'd been doing pretty good. He came in and took one look at the store and said, "My gosh, you've got everything in this store." I said, "Oh, okay, all right." And we were award-winning stores, whatever else. Linda's mentioned some of that. We got Radio Shack, and then had an incentive program. If you sold, $10,000, $20,000 more than you did the year before, they'd send you on a free trip. We got several cruises. Well, that's how we got them. That's how we managed. We got several of them. We got an award off of for being it was the Top Gun Award, and we qualified for that one and some stuff like that. We weren't doing too bad. And like I said, we managed to get off on a couple of cruises. Those were interesting. That's a whole nother story. There is one sidebar I'm going to put on. One of the trips we qualified for was a trip to Rome, and that wasn't a cruise. That was land based. Okay, but we got to see a lot of places in Rome and whatever else, and it was interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen this current movie, recently current, book club, Next Chapter, the second version. It opens up with all these scenes in Rome where they could decide to go over to Rome. I'm going, I was there, I know this one, I know this one. It was really, I told Linda, says, we got to get that movie. it's like a nostalgia. Here's a video of where we were. That was, like I said, that was, kind of an odd thing that would happen on that one. But yeah, it was interesting. But whatever, getting close on time. Got anything else?
Yeah. Tell me about your, you've done a lot of service for the church. Tell me about your priesthood call and also about just your involvement with the church.
All right. Well, I started helping out around here with the deaconing stuff. I was not ordained or anything, And one of the head deacon got a job over in, well, what is that town over? It's on Highway 2, about 2/3 the way to Nauvoo. I never can remember the name of it. Fairfield or, it's past Centerville. It's, I think, the next county seat over. Doesn't matter. This guy, he got the job over there, and he left. Well, that, okay. And then I got a call from Leonard Boswell, and he and Dale Paterno called me in. And I said, uh-oh. I said, I think I know what this might be, And I said, good grief, if you just thinking I'm going to take a job, with a priesthood job, just because you lost somebody and I'm filling in the hole, I said, forget it. I'll tell you, go, well, you could just decisions. But anyway, I walked in and I think it was Leonard that said, I says, I think you've been told why you're going to be here. And all of a sudden, boom, it hit just like that. It turned everything inside out. Things happen again, remember. And I says, I did get told this was coming, I accepted because of that. It was really a rather moving moment in my life, And, well, you've seen me pretty much since then, so that's, it has been, like I said, what seems to go on in my life, it just seems to happen, and it fits, and I don't know why, but that's what has happened, back ways in my age, when I was coming up to Graceland, I decided to get my patriarchal blessing, and I got that from Roy Chaville down at the auditorium in Independence. And going, okay, all right. And one of the things that stuck with me on that blessing was you have some insights and inclinations into the physical world, and whatever else. I don't remember what went on from there, but I said, okay, and it has kind of come to pass. So anyway, fill in another past tense. But as far as I don't know, there weren't too many other major events, but that doesn't mean there was wasn't nothing going on. Just doing my thing and helping out around here, whatever else, and it just seems to fit, as well, just like everything else that seems to happen to me, it just, well, that's what I need to be doing right now. So anyway, I don't know if there's anything else more on a spiritual journey. The only other thing I can think of is that my wedding, and with the old orange carpet up front, yes, flaming orange. Oh, good grief. The photographer. Yeah, Rod Shaw was shooting the wedding on it. We got some interesting pictures from that. My Uncle Cliff did perform the service. He was the husband of my wife's, I think it was the oldest sister, my wife, sorry, thank you for correcting me. My mother's oldest sister. Anyway, and the two, the best man was yeah, that's right. Richard Hawks, you might have heard of him. And then Ron Smith. Those are the two. Yeah, that was whatever. The thing that I remember about that one, it was a service. Okay, so I didn't read much. But I'll tell you, the,
Wait a minute.
but, no, it wasn't anything extraordinary, anything special, you know. It was just, you know, it's going along, you know, I'd seen them, heard them before, you know, all the words goes down, whatever. Whatever. And it got down to, you now kiss the bride. I remember that kiss. That one was probably the most significant feeling that I'd ever, you know, I told you, it made me feel like she was, you know, when I was with her, it felt like I was at home. And it's just like, okay, this is like the ceiling of this one or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it was, I do remember that one. I don't know what Linda thought about that one, but it wasn't anything that was terribly spectacular, but just the contact itself. It was like, okay, yeah, right. Yeah. All right, that's about as close as I can get. Paul, what?
I'd like to think that you've had more significant kisses along the way with Linda.
I didn't say I didn't have others.
Would you share, and you don't have to if you don't want to, you really don't, but recently you have intimated that you wish you could spend more time being a member of the Sunday experience instead of feeling like you're on the clock working. Now those are my words, not yours. But am I right at all? You'd like a little bit of more?
Yes and no. I don't really see what I do as on the clock, you know, as a job. You know, but it's stuff that needs to be done. Someone's got to do it. Okay. And I see it as my service to the congregation. That's the way I view it, you know. So I don't really view it as a job, you know. Oh, is the time to go home yet? But I do miss being involved in the actual worship service, not as a worker, but as a participant, you know, and experiencing a worship service. There's some frustration on my part with respect to that, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's put it that way. It's the way I feel about it, and I got no problem doing it. You know, like I said, the regrets on that one. The downside of it is that you're paying attention to something else instead of the service. You know, you're here. You've seen me around. I'm here. I'm there. I'm somewhere else, taking care of stuff that needs to get taken care of. You know, so whatever. We'll see. You know, other than that, that's about the best I can answer that question. Lester.
Dale, I got a little something I want to share with you.
Okay.
I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I got up, and I wrote a little something. It says, Dale, I got up this morning thinking about you giving your testimony, and I said a prayer for you. I remember the many years you served the Lamoni congregation. You were there serving, helping those who needed a seat, carrying the microphone for announcements. You were there serving. You did cleaning. Many of us did not know and see the work you did. When I was pastor here, you was always ready to do whatever needed to be done, and I thank you for that. It's my prayer.
Thank you for that.
Can you talk a little bit about how, did you have any siblings? I was going to ask you that.
Can of worms. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to that. Yes. I had one brother. He was younger than me, about 4 years. And it was, you know, we had our normal, I would guess, ups and downs as brother. He always seemed to get, my folks got a little bit better off as things went along, and we weren't as tight on money and stuff like that. and I didn't get a chance to do this, that, and whatever else, and Daryl got to be manager of the baseball team in the high school and all kinds of weird things like, all right, but little things like that, you know, annoyances. But, you know, we got along pretty well. He was up in, he moved up to Alaska and was up there. We'd get family reunions, and don't ask me why, but almost all of our family reunions were at the McGee's cabin just outside of Denver, up in the mountains, and whatever. So he'd come down for that and whatever else. Okay, that was just little odds and ends like that, you know. But anyway, whatever. He had a bout with, and he tried to keep it quiet for some somewhat obvious reasons. He didn't want to worry my mom. He had a bout with some kind of, I think it was a cancer that he was having some trouble with. He told me that someone had saw him out on a job and says, "Boy, you do not look good. You need to get to a doctor." Well, he did, and whatever. Well, he kind of got through that, was past that, whatever, and okay. Now, sidebar. Back in 2002, my mom passed away. She'd been having some trouble. They finally ended up doing a tracheotomy on her, and she couldn't talk anymore. That's about the only thing she could do really well. She could use her hands a little bit. She did a lot of craft work. But she'd had this deal, and if she had done this, she could talk. But she didn't seem to put two and two together. Doesn't matter. Anyway, and I was up here at Grace. I'd, working or whatever else. And I would go down to visit with her in the nursing home. They finally had to move her into a nursing home because of it. And they finally diagnosed her with post-polio distress syndrome or something like that. Anyway, she was losing control of her muscles, and she couldn't breathe. That was what the problem was, and whatever. So I was going back and forth, and I remember, and the timing on this is a little significant, so you'll see where I'm going. And I went down, and it turned out to be the last time I saw her. And it was in her room, and she was telling me, she says, "You take care of your dad." I said, "Okay." Well, she did everything she could do, from her situation. But she said, "You take care of your dad." My cousin Gary had built a house down just a few blocks from my folks down in Independence, and they were taking in people for kind of nursing care. And my mom was scheduled to leave the nursing home and go to my cousin Gary's house that they had set up for her, this room. And they were getting started on that. Nice house, by the way. But he went over there. She went over there. She got to talk with two of her sisters. I think a couple of her brothers had already passed. And she went to sleep. Never woke up. She had they were saying that she had a smile on her face when they found her. And whatever. Okay. So I said goodbye to her in the nursing home. She moved, and the next morning she was gone. Okay. Okay. All right. Anyway, then about, when was it? Oh, it's 2013. My dad had fallen during the summer. He was out mowing the yard. He fell and hit his head. I think he knocked himself out on a root from this big soft maple tree that we got in the front yard down there. And then he was in for that. They sent him into the hospital, and they said, "Oh, you're going to have to get on heart medication." Heart medication? He'd never had any trouble with his heart. Okay? Within about a month, he was back in the hospital, Same kind of a problem, not the falling down part, but they checked him out for heart again. They doubled his heart medication. This doesn't make any sense, whatever. But anyway, so about long around September time, he happened to reach down the bottom of his fridge to pick up a potato. He was cooking his dinner. And his back snapped. Uh-oh, okay. Well, he went to the hospital. He went from the hospital to the nursing home, and the nursing home was Groves, by the way. And whatever. And my dad was, well, I guess I'll probably take after him a little bit. He's always doing something. He's always working at something or whatever. Anyway, he was in the nursing home, and I was going down to see him, like Mom, and I was talking to him, and came in. He wasn't in his room. The nurse came by. He says, "Oh, he's still in the eating hall, whatever. They have a place to eat." And he says, "But he's not eating." Uh-oh, this doesn't sound good. I said, "Okay, all right." Anyway, he came back into the room, and he was tired. Okay, no big deal. He wanted to take a nap. All right, well, we had some things we needed to take care of. So we went out, took care of some of those, something to, I think of what the car he's got had, that was, well, we're trying to figure out how we're going to handle the title if he ever did, want to get rid of it or whatever. So we went over at the motor DMV. Anyway, we went from there, and we went over to Applebee's out at the Independent Center. Not the Independent Center, it was the mall area. Oh, what? Blue Ridge Mall area. There was an Applebee's out there. And we sat down, and we got a call from the nursing home. Uh-oh. And they says, "Your dad is having all kinds of these chest convulsions, whatever else. What do you want us to do? What can you?" And I asked him, they asked him, do you want to have us call an ambulance and send him back to the hospital or whatever else? I said, "What are they going to do at the hospital that you can't do right there?" I remember saying that. And they said, "Well, nothing." And then about 15 minutes later, they called back again. "He's gone." Whoa, okay. All right, that was that event. Then my little brother went down for my dad's funeral, which is in early part of January. My brother's birthday is the 31st of December, and my dad passed on the 31st of December, and he says, "Well, that was a really great birthday present." Anyway, so he came down, and one of my cousins came down that I get Facebook messages from her all the time. Some of them are pretty good. But she came down, and he came in from Alaska, she came in from Oregon, and whatever, father's service, whatever else. And then he went home. He was planning on coming back on Labor Day weekend, okay, in the first part of September. And we was going to divide up Dad's stuff. Okay, and he decided he was going to come back for that. The next thing I heard was that as he told it, it was about May or June. In a 2-week period, he went from limping to a walker, to a cane, to a walker, to a cane, to a walker, to a wheelchair inside of 2 weeks. He could not stand up. They flew him down from Fairbanks to Seattle, and he was undergoing some physical therapy and stuff like that there. they pronounced him with transverse myelitis, which from Linda, with her medical background with respect to medical transcription, said it's about the nerves. And it went, and transverse is just, it goes across. He could not feel or do anything below his waist. There was nothing going on. If you think about some things that happened about there, it was interesting. Anyway, he came down, we finally picked him up, brought him back down here, and we were taking care of him at the house. And we had some good times. You know, he was rather with it. Then along around, we picked him up the 1st of October. And there's more stories there, but we haven't got time. Anyway, he went to about the first of the year, right around Christmas time. He had this episode. It was really kind of strange. You know, you couldn't quite figure out where he was or something else like that. You know, like, okay, all right. Well, we sent him up to the hospital. He got up to the hospital. He was doing fine, you know, and whatever. So, but it was strange. A couple weeks later, he had another one of these incidents. Okay, all right. Then come along around graduation time, in May. He had another deal. It sent him to the hospital again. This time it was, I don't know, his head was hurting or something. He had had something going on that, he missed Lisa's graduation. We had a seat reserved for him down at the auditorium, not the auditorium, it was over in Kansas City, Missouri, where the graduation was going on. And he couldn't make it. He was laid up in the nursing home out here at, down the street. Anyway, and he was just recovering from that one, and I called him. I'm shortening down a little bit, and I remember talking to him, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, do you have a will made out?" He said, "Oh, I don't need to do that." Okay, and within a day, he had this absolutely horrendous headache. Okay, and went into they took him in the next thing I know is they were taking him into they called us, we came up to the hospital at Leon, and they just said, we called in the life flight helicopter. Life flight? Uh-oh. Okay. They said, we're going to put in a breathing tube. Now, one of the previous episodes when he was up in, I think it was Methodist Hospital, he'd been in there, and they had him on IVs and all kinds of weird stuff. He started pulling them out all over the place, and he was, they finally had to restrain him. They basically handcuffed him to the bed, is what it amounted to. So they put this breathing tube in and sedated him somewhat, so he was, comfortable and relaxed, not hyperventilating or anything, or trying to. And they shipped him up to, it was Mercy this time.
Marion, we got to get going.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry. But anyway, he was up there, and a couple days, next day or so, he was, the doctor came in, he says he's in a coma. Uh-oh, we got the family together. Actually, we got everybody together. My son Mike, his crew, Aaron and Malachi, and we were all together at the hospital and got talking about it. And he said that the doctor came in, he says the second eye is now fixed and dilated. It's, totally non-responsive. And we got talking about it, remembering the tubes and whatever else, and he had this tube down his throat to help him breathe. And I says, okay, if he ever wakes up, he will have that thing pulled out in a heartbeat. And, that'll be bigger trouble yet. And I said, well, you might want to just go ahead and take it off. 15 minutes later, he was gone. He never took a single breath after that. This was like that. My mom was one night to the next day. My dad was, a couple of hours from the time that it was. My brother, 15 minutes. And I'm going, you understand now what I'm saying about, oh boy, wait till they have the ball off. It was traumatic on all of them. So, and the thing that haunts me about that one is I had to make the decision to do it, and it just comes back all the time, and I have to deal with that. So, whatever. Enough said.
Wow, wow. Dale, I've always considered you to be a very gifted man, and you have brought that gift to us here at the congregation. And I just want you to know how much that I appreciate all that you've done. I've known you for quite a few years, and I always have found you to be so helpful and so willing to assist in any way you can. So, big thank you from me personally, and I know from the congregation as well. Thank you.